An object is a self-contained piece of code that has its own set of properties, methods, and events. The .NET library that C# uses is actually a library of objects. Just about everything in C# is an object. Controls, web pages, and even variables are all objects. In this lesson, you'll learn about the object and var variable types. To begin, open the My Project sample file from your Sample Files folder. And open the code behind file of calculator.aspx. You used the double variable type for your calculations on this page, which is the correct approach. But since a double variable is an object, you can also use an object variable. An object variable can store any type of data. You typically use them when you need to store data but do not know its type in advance. Change the first line of code in button calculate click to use object instead of double. As you can see, the line that performs the calculation is now indicating an error using a red underline. This is because the math.max method expects numeric arguments and doesn't know what to do with an object variable. You can still make this code work by casting the object variable to a double variable type for the purposes of this calculation. To do this, change the double result line to double result equals math.max, begin bracket, double, end bracket, first number, comma, second number. As you can see, the error has now disappeared. You could also have solved the problem by converting the value of the object to a double with the convert.toDouble method. Because an object variable doesn't have a fixed type, it is capable of storing any type of data. Add a new line after the object first number line with the following code: first number equals datetime dot now. This changes the value of the first number variable to today's date. You can now see why C# needs to be explicitly told the type of data that is stored in an object. It could literally be anything. Remove the line that sets first number to today's date, as obviously trying to convert a date time to a double would cause an exception if you tried to run this code. Note that object variables have a getType method, which allows you to extract the current type of the object. We are now going to use the var variable type. Just like the object variable type, the var variable type can be used to store data of any type. But there's an important twist. The var variable type establishes its type when it is created. From that point forward, the type cannot be changed, and the variable can be used in exactly the same way as the type it has assumed. Change the first line of code in the button calculate click event handler to use a var instead of an object. You can now remove the cast from the double result line. View the page in your browser now and test the form. As you can see, the calculation works without any problems. Even without casting the var to a double, C# knows that the first number variable's type is double. This is simply because you put a double value into the variable when you created it, causing it to assume the double variable type. Close your web browser now. Although the calculation will still work perfectly using object and var variables, it is best to use exactly the types you need whenever possible. Change the first line from a var back to a double. Note that you should only use object and var variables when there is a good reason. It would be quite possible to replace every variable in an application with var or object variables. However, this would be very poor programming practice for several reasons. 1. Object variables are inefficient because they have to be constantly converted to different types in order to use them, and this results in code that runs slower. 2. Code containing object and var variables is much harder to understand. And 3. Code containing object and var variables is more prone to runtime errors, as fewer errors can be trapped by the compiler. You've now completed Lesson 5.13. Use object and var variables.